Back to Ask a Wizard, where you are going to be learning the secrets of everyday life. Today we're going to be talking about how you can get 10 times the value of an MBA for $6,000. Sounds like some sleazy sales tactic to try and clickbait you in, but believe me, I think by the end of this video you will find that I have delivered and beyond. For starters, let's start off with the fact that to give you 10x of the value of an MBA, I'd simply have to only put you in debt 10 grand because, well, an MBA has negative value. Getting an MBA actually makes you less valuable. You learn less. You have less success by getting an MBA because you've put yourself in debt and not actually gotten anything of value back. So, I mean, I shouldn't say nothing of value. Let's say if you spend 60 grand on an MBA, you'll probably get about 40 to 50 grand of value back for the length of your life. It's a worthless thing to get, much like a college degree in virtually every circumstance. And so for that, I think I've actually set the bar a little too low for myself. So today what I'm hoping to do is to do 10x that. So rather than lose 10 grand, maybe you could spend 6 grand and get $100,000 of value back over the course of your life. Maybe even more. Maybe it will be worth millions to you, depending on how you implement what I'm going to teach you today. So if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, should I get that college degree? Should I get an MBA? Should I go $60,000 to $100,000 in debt for this piece of paper? I think that before you make that decision, you should consider the option that I'm going to present to you right now. And that's what I'm calling a virtual MBA. A virtual MBA is treating your education in real things in real life like the education that they are. And for some reason there's this disconnect. There's people that actually think that if you aren't sitting in a college classroom writing papers with a professor, that your education is somehow invalid. Which is quite odd, because sitting in a classroom writing papers and doing homework and things of that nature have absolutely no real world impact and isn't teaching you any skill that's actually valuable in real life. That's why, for example, myself, when I applied for my first jobs as a marketer, I actually had to take my marketing degree and put it to the bottom of my resume, and eventually removed it because I had two separate people from two different companies tell me that they didn't want to hire people with marketing degrees because they had already learned how to do marketing wrong, and it would take too much time to unteach them the wrong ways they learned in school and then reteach them the correct ways. They'd rather just have someone that didn't know anything at all. Those are things that were told to me from actual employers in the field hiring for marketing. It really is, it sucks. It's tragic. It is, you know, in the same way that the housing market was a scam in 2008 for a lot of people, college degrees are the new scam that people are falling for. It's a very sad state that we're in. They're being misled, they're being lied to, and being exploited, and they're exploiting the young people that are uninformed, and they're just listening to whatever their parents tell them. It's a very sad situation, but the college environment and the college education does not have value. It isn't going to produce an ROI for you comparable to what you're paying. You could get the same education, as Goodwill Hunting put it, for $5 of late fees at the library. And today, you don't even need the $5 of late fees in the library. You just need an internet connection, or access to someone with an internet connection. It really is that simple. So if you're watching this right now, you already have access to getting a far better education than any college can provide. So that's the first reason why I think that I'm going to be able to deliver for you today. And this virtual MBA approach is basically sitting down and saying, okay, so an MBA costs 60 grand on average. Maybe you can get it for less. Maybe you can get it for 30. Maybe you can get it for more. Maybe you pay 100 grand. Depends on where you go, what you're trying to do. But let's call it 60 grand. Let's take 1/10 of that, $6,000, and let's spread that out over the course of a year. Now, spreading that out over the course of a year is, I believe, $500 a month, correct? So, rather than go into crippling debt on an MBA for 60 grand that you will never make back in, I guess you could, in the same way that you could win the lottery, you could probably make it back. But it's highly unlikely that you'll make it back. How about spend 6 grand and spread it out, $500 a month over a year, and invest that $500 every single month into trying to actually build a business. That simple. And go in it with the idea, just like you would with an MBA, of losing all that money, because an MBA isn't gonna pay you back at the end of the year. It's not gonna pay you back in 10 years. It's not gonna pay you back in 20 years. It's gone. That 60 grand will be gone. And so will your 6 grand be gone if you do your business incorrectly. So just go in there with the mindset that I am okay with losing this 6 grand over this course of this year. In the same way that you're okay with losing 60 grand in the course of, say, 2 years at an MBA. Now that you've accepted that you're okay with losing the 6 grand, treat that money as a source of income for your business. Try to build a business. And I mean literally try to build it. Go out there, research, pay people for information, pay people for marketing, pay people for advertising, fail, don't succeed, do it badly, do a bunch of things wrong, and see what happens. And what's crazy is if you do that and you do this virtual MBA, what you won't have at the end is a piece of paper. But what you will have at the end is, sorry, my controller just disconnected there. What you will have at the end, though, is actual experience. You'll have actual experience doing actual work for an actual business, and you will have learned how business and marketing occurs in real life, not this made-up fantasy world of college. You're going to be getting real experience. And if you do it really well, you may just have an actual business at the end of the year. Maybe the 6 grand you invested, by the end, maybe you made it back. Or maybe you made some of it back and you only lost 3 grand. So you spend 3 grand at the end of the year of the 6 grand you planned on investing to get a far better education in business. And that's what you can do. That's what I would recommend. I think anyone, before you go to college, when you're getting out of high school, or when maybe you just got scammed by the industry, you got the college degree, you realized it had no intrinsic value, you tried to apply for jobs, so you think, well, maybe I just need a little bit more. Maybe the problem is that the college degree just isn't it today. Now it's the MBA. Before you go and throw your money into the toilet, why don't you try this first? Take a year and try this. And see what happens. Maybe it won't work. And if it doesn't work, you've only spent 6 grand. That's 1/10 of what you were going to go into debt for your MBA, and you can always go back and do that MBA. But if it does work, I think not only will you have saved $54,000 now, you will have also gained way more wisdom than you would from an actual MBA. And keep in mind, building a business, and I'm saying treat this like a real business. It's okay if you fail. Go out and make the business you want to make. Find out if that's a bad idea. It might very well be. And that's a good lesson to learn too. But get a business license. Set up an LLC. Treat it like a real thing. Make a real product. Make a real service. Advertise it. Sell it. Learn about accounting. Learn about legal fees. Learn how you have to operate a business within the tax environment that you live in. Learn how to network. Learn how to manage people, how to manage teams, how to do customer service, how to do sales, how to do marketing. These are all the things you're going to learn from starting a business by just spending $500 a month. And these are all things that you are going to then be able to write down on a resume, because you're actually doing them. You can put your piece of paper on a resume and say, I sat in a classroom for 2 years and I paid someone 60 grand to say that I got A's and B's. Look at me, I'm really cool. Or you can pay 6 grand and say, I built an actual business doing the very thing that you want to hire me for. Which one do you think sounds better on a piece of paper? Hey, we want to hire you for accounting. Well, I have a piece of paper that says I sat in classes where they talked about math and occasionally discussed how to do accounting, but never in an actual practical sense, because all these guys know what actually happens in college classes because a lot of them went there. They're in on the game. They know that they sat around and did the same thing. They know that nothing that they learned in college is ever applied in real life. Do you think they're going to hire that guy? Or do you think they're going to hire the guy? I've owned an accounting practice that specializes in accounting for small to medium-sized businesses, and I've done that for the last 5 years, and I've done very well, but the time requirements for running and operating your own business are starting to become overwhelming for me, and so I'd much rather like to switch to a company where I can do the accounting I love and not have to worry about all the overhead of running a business. Oh, and by the way, here's my list of 50 clients that I have serviced during that time that have all left me fantastic reviews and said how much money I've saved them. Overall, over the last 5 years, I have saved my clients over $500 million. Who are you? Who are they gonna hire? Who has the added value? The guy that went out and did the job, or the guy that went out and role-played learning how to do the job and never got the experience? It's as simple as that. So go out there and get your virtual MBA. And you know, if you can't afford $500, then you shouldn't be considering going. First off, you shouldn't be considering going 60 grand in debt. That's a pretty horrible idea. And you should focus on figuring out a way to increase your income now, so that you can afford that. So that you can afford $500. Whether that's reducing the things that you're spending on, frivolous things, or increasing the amount of money that you make. And that's a different skill set. That's not starting a business. This is specifically for people who are considering going into crippling debt for a piece of paper that won't work, or for people who want to be quote-unquote entrepreneurs, but rather than becoming entrepreneurs are just kicking it down the road by getting useless degrees that won't benefit them. If you're just trying to increase your income, that's a different ball game. It's an easier game too. It is much easier to increase your income than it is to be an entrepreneur. So get that dialed in first. If you're looking for advice on that, I'd highly recommend Scott Adams' book, How to Fail at Everything and Still Win Big. It's got some great systems in there for just overall increasing your income. learn valuable skills, learn multiple valuable skills, combine those skills together so that you have an added value offer is essentially what it means. So like, for example, if I learned how to do public speaking very well, and I also learned how to do accounting very well, I could be a boss of people who do accounting because I have good public speaking and I know how to do accounting. And then you can stack multiple skills in that way. The basic premise of it. And that will work. And also I'd recommend The 4-Hour Workweek is a great book to actually increase your revenue as an employee, believe it or not. Though it is a book mostly about escaping that and not being an employee, but it has very useful principles like identifying what your strengths are and then tripling down and quadrupling down on them, becoming really, really good at the things that you're good at, and delegating and eliminating the things that you're not so hot at. That by doing that, you're essentially, and also identifying your most valuable task. So for example, if you find in your day you do 3 tasks that produce $500 of value, and they take a total of 1 hour, your 1 hour value is $500 an hour when you're doing that activity. But if you're cluttered in with another 7 hours, you're diluting the value of that. 7 hours of useless work that doesn't, checking emails, creating redundant spreadsheets, making reports that no one will ever read, things like that. Those are low value skills. So if you can find ways to essentially get hired to only do the high value activity, you can make more money in a smaller amount of time, essentially. Or in theory, you can increase your income by just doing that activity for more hours. So yeah, that's what I would recommend for you if you're trying to increase your income, for example, and gain skills. And by gain skills, I don't mean go to college. Don't do that. That's the worst thing you could do. Do not do that. If you want to make more money, get on Udemy, get on YouTube, go and search Forbes top jobs and top skills for 2018. Just made that up. It doesn't have to be Forbes. It could be anything. You just go into Google and type top jobs, top highest in demand jobs and highest value skills 2018. Look at those things. Find ones that are within your wheelhouse, and make sure it's a big list too. It needs to have at least 50 jobs listed. Let's give this a nice little criteria. At least 50 jobs listed. And make sure it's something that's within your wheelhouse, that's within your skill set, that ideally works with something that you have a natural talent in, and then find out what's required to become that. What do you need to do? So for example, I know a very in-demand job right now is content creation, content writers, people who can create effective power pages that will rank in Google and get people traffic. It's a very in-demand skill. What do you need to do to get a job like that? Well, it sure as heck isn't a degree. What you need is a portfolio. How do you build a portfolio? By making pages that rank in Google. How do you make pages that rank in Google? That's a great thing to find out. I have a video on it. You can go learn how to do that by watching my video. Or you could go to Backlinko. Or you could go onto Google and search how to do SEO. There's a lot of different ways you can learn how to do it. Just Google it and learn it and practice it and try it and make a blog and pay $25 to get a real website and set it up and blog there and put your content there and get information out there and try things and fail and experiment. You don't have to spend $500. I'd highly recommend spending $500 a month, because then you can get the best information and you can try real experiments and you can do it quickly and you can fail faster. But you could do this for free too. Build a portfolio and then demonstrate it. Bring it into your interviews. Apply for jobs as a content writer. When you go into the job as a content writer, say, The reason why I think you should hire me is because you're looking for someone who can get web pages to the top of Google for competitive keywords. Here are 3 competitive keywords. Here's what Google says the traffic is worth. Here are the websites, or here are the blog posts I wrote that got there. I can do this on these websites, and I can do it for your website too. That's why you should hire me. There you go. Now you have a higher paying job. That's what I would start with. Get someone else to pay you. And then once you're in that position, then you can go and work on starting a business. But if you don't have the income right now, you need to lower your expenses so that you can afford to waste $500 a month for a year to get a 10x education value over an MBA. Or you need to increase your revenue so that you can afford it. And that's how you do it. I learn valuable skills online for free and create proof that you did it. Whatever that is. If it's accounting, offer to do, you want to be an accountant? Offer to do accounting for your friends and family for free in exchange for a letter of reference. There you go. All you would need is a DBA, which is I think $23 in California. Doing business as under sole proprietorship, you are going to do the accounting. And I obviously, certain fields have certain requirements. You might need a fee, you might need legal, whatever. That's part of your research phase. Find that out. I don't know if you can just be an accountant without doing it. I know you have to be like a CPA for certain levels, but I have to imagine like generic bookkeeping, for example, for friends and family wouldn't probably require much licensing of any sort. But you need to remove the idea that you need a magic piece of paper to do things. A magic expensive piece of paper, because the only reason you believe that is because very corrupt institutions have been lying to you and saying that so that you'll spend enormous amounts of money on their worthless product. That's the gist of it. You're not getting the value you need from a degree, and you know there are extraordinarily rare exceptions to that. You know, if you want to be a surgeon, you're going to have to go to school. If you want to be a not even that. You could be a highly successful investment banker by going to crappy school or not going to school at all. That's not true at all. Sorry. It really... The only schools I can think of that even have an iota of value are the ones that are so expensive that they essentially lose their value. You know, going to like a Harvard, a Yale, an Oxford, you know, the cost of going to the school with the brand name, the value is obviously the networking potential, which most people don't utilize. So throw that money out the window. But that's the value, but the inflated cost offsets that value. So there just really isn't a good reason to do it, with, you know, super rare exceptions. You know, you want to be a professor, you want to be a doctor, any skill that specifically requires degrees, you obviously have to. Ideally, I'd prefer. I wish that there was an option around it. Personally, I'd much rather have, you know, a privately taught doctor. You know, almost like a, what would you call it? What is the thing that blacksmiths have? Like an intern, but it's not an intern. Almost like gosh, that word's gonna. I'm not going to be able to find it, am I? Apprentice, there you go. Yeah, I'd much rather go to a doctor that work through like an apprenticeship rather than having some, you know, BS degree that means nothing. I mean, geez, they're teaching, they teach doctors that, you know, carbohydrates are great, follow the food pyramid, and that's the secret to long life and health. Like, you know, they clearly don't have very good system going here. So I'd much rather have a doctor who's like trained through another doctor who's, you know, seen the real world, seen real world results. His business is based on the success that he's had with his clients, and then that guy learns from that guy. But, you know, who am I? I don't get to make the law. But there are a few exceptions out there, and I'm sure you'll leave them all in the comments below. But for 99.9% of people, don't get the degree, don't get the MBA, spend $6 grand, do it yourself, and learn through experience, and be okay with failing. And that's it. So I think that'll wrap up today's video on how to get your own virtual MBA and how to do it for, get 10x the value for $6 grand. Alright, I'm gonna kill these moles and we will be out. And if you enjoyed, please subscribe. Please. Please.